She killed him. She deserves it. You know the smell, Harry. Do it! So weak.
It was foolish of you to come here tonight, Tom. The orders are on their way.
By which time I shall be gone. And you shall be dead.
We're not learning how to defend ourselves. She's taking over the entire school.
Nice one, James! Look at me!
Gonna be a good time. So we did the first 4 Harry Potter movies last season, and we had you on for Prisoner of Azkaban. Everybody, give a round of applause for Kailee. She's back on the show. Woo!
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, you can
Appreciate
knock that off now. We got Kailee back in Texas to do 1, maybe 2 episodes. We'll see where we're at. But
it feels good in this room.
Oh,
Not dying of
finally, we
heat.
got the AC fixed in the studio. It feels so nice. So very nice. I don't know what that was. Stop it. Kaylee's started this episode out doing some ASMR type noises. And when this episode is over, I encourage you to finish the episode, because at the end, I am going to put everything from the minute I started recording to the minute we started this episode, so everybody can hear your weird ASMRness. So anyways, we made it through episode 4, movie 4, Goblet of Fire. Okay, so we thought it was safe to say that we have already covered my favorite and your favorite movie. Mm-hmm. But you seem to have had a different opinion on this episode. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Something you had mentioned while we were watching this.
So I was always like under the impression that there was kind of like a 3-way tie. I guess not always, but recently I was under the impression that it was a 3-way tie between Prisoner of Azkaban, Order of the Phoenix, and Half-Blood Prince. But something about this movie and watching it, I get so like emotional, and I love the emotions that you get from this, or that I get from this movie. And I don't know, it's just after watching it, it's just like, it just makes me take a step back, and it's just like, oh my God, that was a good movie. And like, I don't know, I guess this is probably my favorite now. So
really,
yeah,
we have a new favorite, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. Since
I showed this to you when you were very young, it's always been Prisoner of Azkaban.
That might just be because after Goblet of Fire and on, like, because I was able to watch.
We just watched the first 4.
Right, yeah, and then after that on, I wasn't allowed to watch any of the ones because they just got darker and
me and your mom decided
different.
it a little too dark for you and everything.
So,
because we didn't want you to see. And I don't think we watched Goblet. Maybe we did. It was a little scary though. I'm pretty sure we only watched the first.
Yeah,
3.
yeah, and I had a brain fart. What was I going to say? I think a reason that I like this movie so much is because my favorite character has a lot of screen time in this movie. So, Sirius Black.
Your favorite character being Sirius Black. I can't remember. I know we did our top list of our favorite characters, and I don't want to go against that, or people will be like, well, was he really your favorite? I'm pretty sure I said Sirius was my favorite. I'm pretty sure you and I share that. We deviate past that, I think. I think I said that Remus was my favorite that was put to screen.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of taking that back now because I really didn't like Remus in this movie.
He was a little, I don't know. He just let Harry go.
Yeah, and for the rest of these movies, he's kind of a jerky face. Like, I understand why.
He's gone through a lot.
And even in the books, he was a jerky face.
Kind of loses his last best friend. So.
Yeah.
But you don't know that because you haven't listened to the podcast episode, right?
Don't know what you're talking about
exactly.
on that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Harry Potter on the Post Credit Podcast. Today we are talking about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This movie came out in 2007. It was directed by David Yates. The writers, of course, back J.K. Rowling from the book source. But I've been talking about this since the first movie. Our one movie we don't have adapting the screenplay in this one, adapting the screenplay with Steve Kloves, is this movie. So this movie was adapted by Michael Goldenberg, but Harry Potter's 1 through 4, Steve Kloves adapted the book, and Harry Potter 6, Half-Blood Prince, and the 2 split finales. Those were both written by Steve Kloves again. So, could you tell a difference in the writing? I definitely could.
I think so. It's kind of hard to remember because I haven't read the books in a long time.
This book was so full of stuff.
I know it was
had to
one of
cut
the
out.
longest.
Yeah, like Order of the Phoenix, Goblet of Fire was like crazy ridiculous, and then Order of the Phoenix came out, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, these things are just going to get bigger and bigger."
Yeah.
Then Half-Blood Prince was a little bit less, and I think it was less than Goblet as well. But then she did it even more in Deathly Hallows. But,
right.
But yeah, the writing is different in this one. I suppose it had to be because it was so long and there was so much to adapt. We lost scenes. We lost scenes like that I thought were great, that shined a little bit of light on Neville. You know, they found different ways to shine light on him in this movie that he didn't get in the book.
Yep.
And I think that's probably because they took away some of his moments in the book. Some of his moments in the book when Arthur gets attacked at Christmas and goes to St. Mungo's Hospital, which is the wizarding hospital that you don't actually get to see in this film series. I'm hoping that they explore it whenever we get the TV adaptation, which we have to talk about.
Yes.
I'm hoping we get that. But while they were there and Arthur was there, they see Neville. And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And that's when Neville tells them a story of, which we kind of get a real brief scene in this movie, of, you know, when you know, my parents were in the Order of the Phoenix last time, you know, Bellatrix, and in the movie it just says Bellatrix, but it was Bellatrix, it was Barty Cratchit Jr., and it might have been Rodolfo Lestrange, Bellatrix's husband or whatever. But they all took place in the Cruciatus Curse of the Longbottoms for what I'm assuming is a very long time, probably hours and hours and hours and hours, just torture, maybe even days.
Sirius said it was a fate worse than death.
He said it was a fate worse than death, because to this day, Neville and Neville's parents, they reside in St. Mungo's. They got tortured so bad they lost their memories. They went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and they don't remember their son. You know, they don't know who Neville is. And that's why Neville's always been raised by his grandma. And we heard about it through all these movies. Well, in Order of the Phoenix, when they go to St. Mungo's, that's when you find out more about Neville. And when you find out more about the prophecy and when their person was supposed to be born, that's where the focus and the spotlight is shown on Neville, that Neville could have been the chosen one because him and Harry were born at the same time.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And so it's interesting. And we can get into that a little bit later, but don't let me forget to talk about the prophecy and Neville and why he chose Harry.
Okay.
So, do you want to go over who this stars?
Sure. Okay. So we've got Daniel Radcliffe playing Harry Potter. We have Rupert Grint playing Ron Weasley. Emma Watson playing Hermione Granger, the core three. And then we've got Harry Melling playing Dudley Dursley. We've got Brendan Gleeson playing Alastar Moody, or Mad-Eye Moody. We have Catherine Hunter as Mrs. Arabella Figg. We've got Fiona Shaw, Petunia Dursley, as Petunia Dursley. We've got Richard Griffiths as Vernon Dursley.
Mr. Richard Griffiths.
We have, let's see, Natalia, is it Tina or Tana?
Tina
as Nymphadora Tonks.
Who you've recently seen in Game of Thrones, is that correct?
Yes, and then we've got Ralph Fiennes. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. Okay.
It's actually pronounced it differently than most people, but it's Rafe Fiennes.
Why is there an L there?
It's spelled like Ralph, but it's pronounced Rafe.
Oh.
And him and his brother, another Fiennes, are both actors in these, in the Hollywood and everything.
And then we also have George Harris as Kingsley Shacklebolt.
George Harris as Kingsley Shacklebolt. Okay, so Natalia Tina as Nymphadora Tonks. Obviously, we've talked about her before. You really like her, right?
Mm-hmm, I do.
She's
unique.
She's not an animagus. She's not, or animagus. Excuse me, and they said animagus in here, and you got real upset.
I did. It's animagus.
But she's not like that. She's more just like a shapeshifter, kind of. Yeah. She can turn her hair color. She can make facial features, but I don't think she could actually turn fully into something.
Right.
Please, somebody, if that's incorrect, just let us know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. But you saw her on Game of Thrones, and you just recently started watching it, right?
Yes. So
what season are you up to?
My boyfriend's mom has invited me over to their house every Sunday to. I guess I didn't really need to say that part, but
and I just want to say live on the show that I love your boyfriend's name. I won't say it.
Thank you.
But I love your boyfriend's name.
Thank you. His parents have. I go over there every week, and we watch some Game of Thrones. And we just finished, before I came here, we just finished season 4.
So you finished season 4.
Yes.
At the beginning of season 4, that was the Purple Wedding, right?
Yes.
With Joffrey. So much joy brought to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I've seen, from Harry Potter, I've seen Filch, and I've seen Nymphadora in Game of Thrones. And I point them out to my boyfriend every single time I see him.
Yeah, you'll actually see a lot of these. I mean, it's obviously mostly British stars on that show and everything. And J.K. Rowling insisted that for the British characters, only British stars could play them and everything, which makes sense.
Yep.
Because British actors are a lot better at doing American accents than Americans are at doing British accents.
I'm pretty damn good at my British accent.
Are you?
Yeah.
But are you?
Yes.
I didn't. Like in your circle, are you?
Yes,
or like
listen.
Objectively.
I'm pretty. I mean, I was told by my British grandmother that I am fantastic. So that's enough validation. That's enough validation that I need from anyone.
That I'm just a fantastic.
Exactly. And I've fooled many people by talking British in public, and no one suspects a thing. At least I don't think, because I don't bat an eye. So I'm good. So suck it.
So suck it.
Yeah.
So, were you ever able to look up any kind of like trivia for this?
Nope.
No?
No.
Okay, that's fine. I just wondered. I don't know much trivia. I know a few things here and there, but that's okay. It's not that important. I did want to say that I'm pretty sure that this is the first movie that we can be thankful that Emma Watson is still around for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure so this is either the movie she was maybe not going to be in, or this was the last movie that she was going to maybe be in.
Really?
Does that make sense? She had a contract that went up to a certain, I'm pretty sure it just went up to Goblet of Fire. But then she wanted to go to school and she wanted to do other things. And like to continue to commit to Harry Potter would be like another 5 to 10 years, because they had this one, Half-Blood Prince, then the 2 split movies, and then all the marketing for it, and all the press, and the release, and all that kind of stuff. So,
I didn't know that, so I'm glad she stayed around.
Well, they were all like that, but then she was the only one that was hesitating. Mm-hmm. And I think that would have just been a nightmare to recast
another Hermione. Oh,
one of the main
pissed.
3. Yeah, people would have been very upset. But tell me about Luna Lovegood.
I love her. I actually named my snake after her. So just because she's white.
So your snake's name is Luna?
Yes, it's she's pure white, so I named her after her. But I love Luna. She's really unique. She's got a really quirky personality that no one seems to understand. She's always losing her things because people are being mean and hiding them from her. And I don't know. I really like her. She saw her mother die. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but so she's definitely seen some things, but she has a really, really good attitude towards life and everything. And she just got a good head on her shoulders, I can tell, and she's really sweet. So.
Right.
Doesn't have a mean bone in her body, it doesn't seem.
No, she doesn't. And Ivana Lynch actually beat out 15,000 other girls for the role of Luna Lovegood.
Wow.
She was a huge Harry Potter fan.
Mm-hmm. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, and there was something that she had to do. I can't remember what it was. I remember the story was there was something she had to do, and I think J.K. Rowling said, like, you got to make sure you do it, and then, you'll get a shot or something like that. But really cool to see that, because I remember that being a big thing back in the day, just talking about how big of just a book fan she was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she had done much acting.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a picture of her at like a signing or something, holding a book.
I think she drew the Harry Potter glasses on her face.
It was really cute.
Yeah. Helen McCrory, who plays Narcissa Malfoy in the next movie, she was originally cast, and I think she passed away just recently.
Yeah, she did. Mm-hmm.
R.I.P. to Helen McCrory, but she was originally cast as Bellatrix Lestrange, but because of her pregnancy, she had to be replaced. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the person who played Narcissa Malfoy playing Bellatrix Lestrange?
No. Who plays Bellatrix in this movie?
Helena Bonham Carter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone could have played her better.
Yeah.
She's psycho.
Oh, I thought you were in. Yeah. I mean, Bellatrix, she's just such a presence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
She's an evil to be reckoned with.
An evil to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's crazy.
Yeah. Let's see. In the original outline for the novel, the character of Arthur Weasley was to be killed off by Voldemort to entice Harry to the Department of Mysteries. But she couldn't go through with killing off such a beloved character, which, thank God.
Right.
I remember when I was reading this book, I was so scared that he was going to die. Because it's like, this is such a big family. There's no way every single one of them, being wizards and part of the war so close to Harry Potter, could survive this story. And, it made sense, but I was still terrified. Yeah, and we'll see if any of them make it. All of them make it by the end. But very surprised that she decided to go another way and entice him with a serious. What would you say that was? Just like a vision or a false vision or something?
It looked like it was some kind of dream of him getting into his head and different stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you talking about when Harry gets into his head and shows him what he's doing to him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some kind of vision, and it wasn't really necessarily a dream, but just some kind of like, hey, come here.
Okay, so I don't know if you saw that anniversary special they did.
I never ended up watching it, no.
You should get to it when you get the chance. It's a shame they left out J.K. Rowling, who created the series.
Yep.
But, and I don't know that Harry or Daniel Radcliffe showed up for much. I think he showed up for a talk with Gary Oldman. Yeah, with Gary Oldman. But they talked about how, what was it? Daniel Radcliffe had a crush on Helena Bonham Carter.
I remember that.
Yeah, you remember seeing that?
Yep.
Yeah, and
I've seen little clips from it, but I haven't seen the full thing.
That's from the thing, and I think he wrote her a letter, and she wrote it back to read it back to him, and all that kind of stuff. I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cute.
All right, well, I guess we can just go ahead and jump right into this movie. While staying at the Dursleys, Harry Potter and Dudley are attacked by Dementors. This is how the movie opens up. It's how the movie opens up in the book, pretty much, except it goes through like days and days of summertime and what he's doing and what he's thinking about Cedric and all that.
May I just add that the intro to like the Harry
Warner Brothers symbol.
It's darker and it's a little more eerie. It does that. It progresses like that in each movie, but I just think that's such a cool little aspect that they add in every movie, that they make it a little bit darker because it's getting closer to the big fight, if there is a big fight. Just saying. It's just if, it's not a for sure thing, but it is.
So this is actually the first book I ever read too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
Ever
went and
in
saw
life?
No.
I'm kidding.
What book was that? Like a novel book. I don't even know. Probably The Hatchet.
That was a good book. I
Yeah.
read that in middle school. We were forced to read it, and I hated it, but I ended up liking it in the end.
The
It was
Hatchet
really good.
and the Westing Game. That was when I was younger. Those are some good books. So, anyways, so Harry's obviously very depressed. Dudley's looking dressed to the
He's
nines,
thuggish. He's
whatever
looking
you say.
thuggish.
He's so funny.
He's dripped out.
And man, he did get big. And it was funny because in the books they called him Big D, and that kid grew.
He did.
Yeah, I mean, and he stretched, and he grew way the heck up. So it was cool to see their little thing. I love the little note of when he steps up to Dudley and pulls out his wand. Dudley's like, crap, he just pulled out his wand. The other kid's like, dude, just pulled out a stick. And
Yeah,
pushed it to
everyone's
his
laughing,
throat.
but he knows, like, oh, shit.
It's like, yeah, it's a stick, but which still could be a weapon, but it's the smallest.
You see
stick
the
I've ever
weather
seen.
getting darker, and he's just looking at Harry like, shut
What are you
up,
doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah, he was like, what are you doing?
And one thing that I'd like to throw out there is that I just see the whole interaction between Dudley and his goons, I guess, and Harry Potter, like, you know, Dudley's making jokes and he's like looking back at his friends for validation and they're all laughing. Like, that doesn't happen in real life. It's just like you say something stupid and they're like, oh, sick burn, bro. Like, that doesn't happen. But anyways.
Yeah, well, maybe it does, and you just haven't ran with those crowds. Those
I don't
awful,
plan to.
awful people.
I've ran with awful people, but not those kind of. Those are
Not those
those are
awful.
just stupid awful people.
Not those awful people. So the Ministry of Magic detects that underage Harry used magic to defend himself and to defend Dudley, which I thought was a great scene. I think that basically the way they described it in the book looked great in the movie. You know, having him bring out Expecto Patronum, which we haven't seen in 2 movies. You know, that was great to hear again. And then him. Now, one thing about this beginning of this movie that's always bothered me, they did a terrible job of making it look like Harry was helping Dudley.
Oh.
I don't know if it ever bothers you, if you can remember it, but he's got his arm slung, and you could tell that basically
Oh,
he's just
yes, I know
walking
what you
with
mean.
him. But it doesn't look like he's supporting him.
No.
It totally looks like something you'd see on a stage or
Right.
something, but it's weird. I don't know. It's like, you guys could have rehearsed that a little bit more to make it look silly. Now, I know that a smaller guy like Harry, it's hard for him to carry Dudley, but that's
Big
what
D.
he was smaller than Dudley in the book.
Yeah.
And he still had to struggle to carry him, and it looks so fake. It was so bad.
I get what you mean. This is when we get introduced to Mrs. Fig.
Yeah, Mrs. Fig, which I don't know if we'll see again.
Yeah, I don't
past
think so.
this. I'm pretty sure we see her in the books past this, but not in the movies.
Yeah.
But she's a what?
She's a squib.
Squib.
She's a squib, just like Argus Filch. And I do remember in the books they talked about how her house smelled like cabbage, and she.
Yeah, none of the neighborhood, all the neighborhood kids thought she was just a weirdo, right?
Yeah, and she crossbred cats and. I think they're Neasels. I think that's how it's pronounced. But it's just like a magical creature,
Okay,
like
the
cats.
ministry needs to go keep an eye on her.
And I know that she was part of the Order of the Phoenix as well back in the day, in the first wizard world.
She made the tea.
War. Yeah.
She made everybody's tea for them.
But I know she's part of it. And I know that when Dudley whenever Petunia and Vernon needed someone to babysit Harry, I think they took him to Mrs. Fig or Arabella, and I guess it was she had to kind of like mistreat him in a way.
When was this?
This was whenever she had to, or whenever he needed babysat. I think I remember that. And you know,
No, he thought he didn't mind going over there. He said in the book because she let him watch TV.
okay, because I feel like I remember something about
He just
how.
didn't like going over there because it stunk, and she was kind of a weirdo.
Yeah, I just know that she didn't want Vernon and Petunia to think that he was enjoying himself, because if he did, then
They wouldn't let him come over.
over there.
Right.
And
And I think that he would just go home and be like, it stinks over there.
Yeah.
Stuff. So they probably didn't mind it or whatever. Anyways, he gets a howler from the ministry. And if you've listened to our show, you should know what that is by now. And it basically says, you've been hereby expelled from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
all because he was defending himself.
Harry's been
That's
expelled.
how it is in our real school too.
He was attacked by Dumbledore's. He was attacked by Dementors, And who controls the Dementors?
The Ministry of Magic.
That's right. So this sounds like an inside job, but nobody believes him. So the Order of the Phoenix, a secret organization founded by Albus Dumbledore, informs Harry that the Ministry of Magic is oblivious to Lord Voldemort's return because stupid Fudge, I hate that guy, but stupid Fudge is not believing that Voldemort's back. He doesn't believe Harry's story that he fought him and that he killed Cedric, because that's like the scariest thing that Fudge can think of. And he wasn't minister the last time that Voldemort attacked, and now he's minister. Now he has to lead this, and he is definitely not up to it. And you'll find that out in the next story. It's like as soon as he realizes what's going on, he vacates that spot pretty quickly.
Right.
At the Order's headquarters, Harry's godfather, Sirius Black, mentions that Voldemort seeks an object he previously lacked, and Harry believes it to be a weapon. So, we got everybody. We get, first of all, the pretty sweet intro broom chase. Not chase, but, hauling ass through London, I guess.
Right.
And so they get on their brooms, and it's real cinematic, right? This is the most cinematic Harry Potter that I think we had seen up to this point, and probably for the rest of it until the last movie.
Right.
So they pull up to Grimmauld Place, which is Sirius Black's house, and it's a house that can't be seen unless you know how to get in, and you have to be a secret keeper, which is what Wormtail was for the Potters.
Right.
Their house could not be seen, just like in this one. And Wormtail was the secret keeper. But all the members of the Order of the Phoenix are secret keepers, so they can all access the house. And I think that when they get there in the book, they do give Harry the secret so that he's able to see it. Because he's not able to see it when they first get there. And then suddenly it kind of opens up, and there it is. So, but as they go in, they're, they see that everybody's joined around. Ron, Hermione, the twins. This is a very angry Harry. This is the most angry we've seen Harry, I think, so far. And in this book, it's pretty much like that. He is just a very angry person. And obviously we know why. At the end of Goblet of Fire, Voldemort came back, and he's back. Well, what does that mean? We're going to find out.
And this is also whenever they get to the house and everything, that's when we meet Creature, which is the Black's servant.
Right.
And he's kind of like Dobby.
That does ride a very risque line there.
He's the Black's servant. Yeah.
So, but he's Creature, and he's like a Dobby, but he's a much older house elf. And
he's cranky.
He's been completely manipulated by the Blacks when they were alive, Sirius's mom and stuff, to believe that purebloods are the only true wizards, right, and witches. So Creature believed, he's been manipulated against his own kind, doesn't like house elves, doesn't like mudbloods, doesn't like any of these people.
So it's like racism in the wizarding world.
Right, and they spread it to their house elf.
Yeah.
So... and actually, the reason that Harry is caught at the end is because of Creature in the book, if you remember.
No, I don't.
Okay, we'll bring it up here at the end. So Arthur takes Harry after Harry finds out that there's a weapon that Voldemort's looking for, and he wants to join. And Molly's like saying, "Stop it! You can't tell him all this." And
He's just a boy.
Sirius like he's got to know, But Sirius doesn't want. I don't know if he's really thinking about his well-being. He wants James back.
Yep.
And that's how he sees Harry. And it's evidence at the end of this movie, which we saw. So I think that if this was any other kid, there'd be no way Sirius would be telling this guy.
Right.
But because it's the son of James, it looks like James.
Right.
He acts like James. He's got... animosity towards Snape like James. So he's just like, I want this kid to know all of it because I want us to get into the fight again. Sirius, I'm sure he likes peaceful times, but he also likes to fight too.
Right.
He also, he always liked to pick on Snape and mess with him with James and everything. So he wants James back, and that's why he's willing to tell him all these things that Matt, I was like, Sirius, come on, man. And Lupin was kind of like, whatever.
He's a little hush-hush.
But if they're telling him, then Lupin doesn't mind. You know,
Right.
I think that Lupin was kind of, there was a part of him that was like, I think Harry deserves to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in lieu of James and Lily not being here, I think he deserves to know everything. So
What do you think?
that any other situation, I'd say no.
Mm-hmm.
But Dumbledore has a plan.
Right.
And Dumbledore's plan is to make sure that Harry knows as much as he can, as fast as he can, except for a couple things that Dumbledore has to keep secret from
Right.
him.
Yep.
Or it'll mess it all up.
Yep.
But other than that, he wants Harry to know as much as he can. He has to prepare Harry to fight and to eventually, you know, face him. So I'd say yes, because I trust Dumbledore as carefree and devil
the
may
knower
care
of
he
all,
is
so I'd
with
trust him.
children's lives. But so Arthur takes him to his hearing.
He's fascinated by the underground trains.
Yep. And fascinated by underground trains. The reason they're going to this is because Dumbledore talked to the Ministry and said, "You're going to have a hearing." You know, Dumbledore has so much swing, so much power because he's so powerful and respected that he said, "We're going to have a hearing about this. You don't get to just kick him out of school, or you know, we're going to have a proper hearing." So takes him there. Of course, Arthur loves the little little phone booth entrance, which I think is pretty cool. They go through the Ministry. They get to the hearing, and you know they started early because of shenanigans, right? Dumbledore would have had to have been hiding because he's like, by you know, a happy mistake or a happen chance or whatever, I arrived here 3 hours early. You know, he knew they were going to pull these shenanigans, right? So he was already there, and thankfully Shacklebolt went and told Arthur, like, hey, you got 5 minutes, you need to get down there. So that, because if he would have missed it, they would have just passed judgment without him being there. So we don't have to really get too much into this. They go through their whole rigmarole.
Harry's getting interrupted left and right.
Yep, and he comes in, he's like,
Witness for the defense. Albus Percival, Wulfric, Brian.
Frodo Brian.
Dumbledore. So he comes in and basically smacks them all down, saying, you know, what are we doing here? This is a use of accidental underage, or this is a use of underage magic. It wasn't a spell in front of somebody that doesn't know about magic. You know, basically they've made concessions for him in the past. Remember when he blew up his aunt and made her swell up? No big deal. Don't worry about it, Harry, because they were trying to keep him safe.
Yep.
They didn't care about it before. And maybe that would have been more of a reason because the aunt didn't know about magic.
Right.
But the only person he used the magic in front of was Dudley, who is allowed to have that information. You know, there are certain people in the world that the wizards and witches allow to know about them because they are related to witches and wizards, though not being ones themselves.
Now look here, Dementors don't just wander into a muggle suburb and happen across a wizard. The odds are astronomical.
I don't think anyone would believe that the Dementors were there by coincidence, Minister.
I'm sure I must have misunderstood you, Professor. Dementors are, after all, under the control of the Ministry of Magic. It's so silly of me, but it sounded for a moment as though you were suggesting that the Ministry had ordered the attack on this boy.
That would be disturbing indeed, Madam Undersecretary, which is why I'm sure the Ministry will be mounting a full-scale inquiry into why the two Dementors were so very far from Azkaban and why they mounted an attack without authorization. Of course, there is someone who might be behind the attack. Cornelius, I implore you to see reason. The evidence that the Dark Lord has returned is incontrovertible. He's not back. In the matter of Harry Potter, the law clearly states that magic may be used before Muggles in life-threatening situations.
Laws can be changed if necessary, Dumbledore.
Clearly, it has become practice to hold a full criminal trial to deal with a simple matter of underage magic.
It's obviously just all a setup and everything, and Dumbledore's like, what are we doing here? He gets Mrs. Fig to come in and testify, and you can tell by the way he's looking back at her that she's memorized everything, because she's a squib. She can't see Dementors.
Right, yep.
So he had to describe to her what they look like, how they acted, what it felt like, and everything so they were lying, but they had to because of the
Does the Ministry of
insinuations that
Magic
were being-
know she was a squib?
I don't know. That's a good question. She might have just given her testimony. They obviously said, what is it? Describe what you saw. Describe what you felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's an interesting thing. I wonder if they did know. But during this, we also get to see Amelia Bones. And Amelia Bones is mother of Susan Bones, who goes to school with Harry. But Amelia Bones is the one that voted or asked everybody to put their vote in. Everything. She actually voted for Harry to be not guilty, and she is a badass.
Mm-hmm.
So in the books, she's actually the head of the law enforcement department. She's like the captain of the law enforcement or whatever. So she's above Moody, all that kind of stuff, and she's quite the badass. And when it came to taking her down, we get a real brief description of it from Fudge at the beginning of Half-Blood Prince in the book, but Voldemort himself sought Amelia Bones down and killed her himself, because most likely if he would have sent any of his top lieutenants even, or any of the regular Death Eaters, they might not have walked away. They mentioned that Amelia Bones was like the greatest witch of her age.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like probably not on Voldemort's level, but they said that there was enough evidence to see that she put up a really good fight.
Mm-hmm.
And who puts up a really good fight against Voldemort? Dumbledore did.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else does.
Right.
You're dead within, pretty quickly if Voldemort comes. So I just thought that was cool. She was she was a cool character. But
And one thing, whenever, after all this, Dumbledore walks up to Fudge and he's like, you need to, consider the facts and consider everything that we've said as to what is going on here. And, Cornelius is like, he's not back.
he's not back.
Yeah. And I feel like from watching him in that scene, it's like, I feel like he believes Dumbledore, but he's just so terrified of of Voldemort that he can't admit it to himself. Maybe, I don't know. He just seems terrified, and I
think that's what it is. I think he's just terrified.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he believes Dumbledore, because one, he's terrified of the prospect of that even happening.
Mm-hmm.
Voldemort's not been around, so there's a good portion of him that doesn't believe it. The
Right.
thought of it is too terrifying for him to change his stance on whether he believes it or not. So it's going to stay a no, because he's too scared to think of maybe yes, he has returned. And since it's a no, I think then that leads him to believe the only reason Dumbledore would be saying this is because he wants my job. Mm-hmm. Which is absolutely ridiculous, because for decades they've been asking Dumbledore to take the job of Minister of Magic. But as we've mentioned on this podcast before, with everything that's coming with the Deathly Hallows and all that kind of stuff, Dumbledore cannot be trusted with power, and he knows that in himself. He knows that he cannot be trusted with power. So he has declined being the minister many, many times that they've asked him, because he doesn't trust himself and how he would react to that. So the fact that the minister's freaking out, he thinks that Dumbledore's trying to take, he's just not thinking with it. Remus said it, he's not thinking.
He's not in his right mind.
Exactly. So, anyways, so he's acquitted. He's allowed to go back to Hogwarts, and real quickly you get to see Umbridge. She's not really introduced. You just get to see her make a little snooty remark, basically saying, "It sounds like you're insinuating that the Ministry was behind this, and all that." And and Dumbledore's I'm sure that's not true, because that would be an awful thing. knowing that you find out later Umbridge is the one that sent the Dementors.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
That's not in the movie, but that's in the book. Umbridge, it was found out that Umbridge was the one that sent the Dumbledores after Harry.
The Dumbledores?
Well, the Dementors. I keep saying that, man. But she loves fudge, right? Mm-hmm. And she's just a horrible, nasty
in love with him, or just
I don't know, but she's likes him a lot and everything, and wants to do right by him, and so Harry and Dumbledore were saying all these things. She's not going to go after Dumbledore, so she sent Dementors after Harry and everything. So, anyway, so he goes to school.
We are introduced to Luna a little bit before that. He turns around and he sees, there's carriages being pulled.
This is when they get to Hogwarts and they get off the train.
Mm-hmm. And they're being carried by these horse-looking, there's undead-looking horses kind of thing.
They look like Thestrals.
They're called Thestrals.
They look like Thestrals.
Yeah.
They look like Thestrals.
Yes. So they're called Thestrals. And he's asking... Shut up. He looks to Hermione and Ron and is like, what is that? And Hermione's like, there's nothing there, you idiot. Not actually, he didn't say that, but he's like, there's nothing there, it's pulling itself like always. And Luna, you meet Luna and she's like, I can see them too. And she looks a little crazy. She's got her book upside down and she's reading it, and she's like, you're just as sane as I am. And that's when you realize that she's a little quirky. She's kind of fun.
Quirky, that's a good word.
Yeah, she's a little quirky girl. So yeah, and then we get into the once they're in the Great Hall.
I think she was the best introduction to the series.
I agree.
That's immediately liked by everybody.
I agree. Yep.
It's just like this, everybody had read the books and they've been waiting years to see this character because you don't see her in any of the books. She's been at Hogwarts, but she's just never, been in the spotlight, I guess.
Right.
But she's introduced, everybody likes her. Everybody. She's a good quirky character, and she actually becomes very important, especially for Harry, in a couple different circumstances in the next few movies.
Yeah, and I like her a lot. But we get Dolores. He's like, we've got a couple, staff changes or whatever, and one of them is Dolores. And usually no one ever gives a speech, but for some reason,
thank you, Headmaster, for those kind words of welcome. And how lovely to see all your bright, happy faces smiling up at me. I'm sure we're all going to be very good friends.
That's likely.
The Ministry of Magic has always considered the education of young witches and wizards to be of vital importance. Although each headmaster has brought something new to this historic school, progress for the sake of progress must be discouraged. Let us preserve what must be preserved, perfect what can be perfected, and prune practices that ought to be prohibited.
She, she's the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, except, since the Ministry is interfering with Hogwarts, there is a new, book that they get, and it's Ministry approved, and it has no defensive spells or anything, and because to them, they don't need to use any defensive spells, because in their eyes, there's no one out there that would want to hurt them. So everyone's like, what the heck? How are we going to defend ourselves and different stuff like that?
Detention!
Yeah. And she's, she's given this speech and everything. No one likes her. And she goes to sit down and Ron says, load of waffles. I don't know what she said.
Load of waffles.
That's what Ron said.
She said load of waffles.
Uh-huh. And, it was, she's just weird.
She is weird.
She's annoying.
Well, she's annoying, and then because Harry was pushing it in class, she gave her detention.
Yep.
She gave him detention.
Yep.
Now, this is where we get into what Henry was talking about earlier. The torture and the torture aspect. Now, Umbridge has been described as a mixture of Doris Day and Freddy Krueger. Mm-hmm. So, Doris Day was this entertainer back in the day, singer, actor, and all. But she was very sweet and chipper and just sickly sweet
Annoying.
Personality. But it worked on her. Mm-hmm. And she has this, but with the Freddy Krueger mentality of, she's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
She's actually been voted by fans as worse than Voldemort.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The worst character, the most evil character in the series is not Voldemort. It's been voted as Dolores Umbridge.
Yeah.
So, kind of gives you if you're reading the books, kind of gives you a better sense of really just how bad she is. So the horrifying abuse happens. He gets in there, and she gives him this special quill that when he writes with it, it carves what he writes into his skin and makes it permanent. Yep. Permanent scars. And in the books, I believe it was only ever done to Harry. And this movie, it shows it being done to a few others as well, but I'm pretty sure that Harry was the only one that had the things carving into his hand. Because I think that would have gotten out, and no matter what crazy Fudge is, he wouldn't have wanted parents knowing that they got teachers carving stuff into other kids' skin or whatever. So, I imagine Dumbledore, if he had just gone to Dumbledore and told him what's happening, this is after he'd had the little scarring. If he had told Dumbledore, I imagine he would have had it tossed out immediately, and then get the word out like, hey, look, she's causing harm to the children, scarring and all that kind of stuff. Then Fudge wouldn't have been able to say anything. But for whatever reason, Harry just didn't want to speak up. It may have been because Harry's kind of salty towards Dumbledore right now. Like, first of all, he found out his friends, he knew his friends weren't contacting him, and then he found out it's because of Dumbledore. Dumbledore, when he tried to talk to him at the Ministry when he was on trial, didn't look at him, didn't talk to him, and then walked right out and walked away.
Yep.
When he was at school, he walked away. Now, do you think there was any way to let Harry know why he was doing that without letting Voldemort know?
I don't know, because he could have... because he was constantly in Harry's head, so it could have taken a split second for Voldemort to know that, Dumbledore's there and everything and talking to him. But
yeah, for those that didn't catch it, the reason that Dumbledore is staying away is because when Voldemort came back last year, he felt this connection that Harry has felt as well. And it's why if Harry keeps having these dreams and images of Voldemort, it's because they can get into each other's heads.
Yep.
Voldemort has figured that out, and he kind of figures it out a little bit more towards the end, and really starts to use it. But in the time being, he's just being influenced by Voldemort because Voldemort is kind of searching the mental spectrum or whatever. Yep. So that's why Dumbledore wanted, just in case Voldemort figured out and was monitoring them through Harry's brain, he didn't want Voldemort to see how close Dumbledore and Harry were. Because if he saw that they had a pretty good relationship, instead of just Dumbledore has no time for Harry, blah 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 blah, it would show how close they are and how important Dumbledore thinks Harry is. Okay, so Harry's pretty mad at Ron and Hermione, right? And we're probably going to skip past a few things because this movie is just so long to talk about everything. Yep. So we're just going to kind of go briefly through everything. But he's very mad at Ron and Hermione because when it's the three of them, like I mentioned before, they break the rules, but they didn't break the rules to send him a message. They didn't step out and do all that. It's like it's supposed to be us no matter what. Right. And you guys weren't there for me or whatever. So he goes out into the forest one day and talks to Luna, who's out there with no shoes because probably somebody stole it. So they're out there, and Luna's talking to him, and he's telling her kind of about, and they're looking at the Thestrals. She's feeding him raw meat and everything, but he's having a problem with everything that he's dealing with, and dealing with the death of Cedric. And whenever he finds out from Luna that it's like people that have seen death, he realizes that she saw her mom die. And the reason he couldn't see these Thestrals before, even though he was there when his parents die, is because he couldn't witness it and he couldn't fully understand it. Right. Because he was just a baby. So he doesn't even have any memories of it happening. So, but now that he does, he realizes that Luna actually saw her mom die and witnessed that happen. And he's just like, this person who's always so bright and so up, how is she dealing with this? Mm-hmm. And, talks about him being alone. And then she's like, if I was who, that's exactly how I'd want you to feel. Yep. Because if it's just you're not much of a threat. Mm-hmm. And right after that, that's when he realizes, okay, I need to let the rest of that crap go. Mm-hmm. I got 2 friends here who have literally gone to battle with me, gone to fight these different things with me, put their life on the line for me and with me. What am I doing? Right. And that's when he goes back and he tries to apologize to them. And it's like, look, I'm sorry. May I join you and everything? And that's when both and Ron's just sitting there like,
he's just eating.
It's just
Do you ever stop eating?
He's like,
hungry.
I'm hungry.
Jenny's looking at him like, what the hell?
But they look at Harry and they're like, okay, cool. Harry's back now. And then Harry's not as moody. He's a little bit moody, but it's not like he's being a jerk to Hermione and Ron like he has been doing. Yeah. So that's all great. Let's talk about Trelawney and what happens with her getting kicked out. Tell us about that scene.
You see Harry is going down a hall and there's a lot of people rushing one way and he's like, what is going on? And he asks Cho and she was like, it's Trelawney. And, he continues to walk out and you see she's standing around all of her suitcases. She's crying and he's like, what? And people are, all the students are watching. And Dolores comes from one way and I think she was just saying that she was kicking her out and everything, and she was removing her as a teacher, but she was also banishing her from the grounds. And do you have any input on that?
Yeah. So it's a pretty fun scene. Another scene for Umbridge to be just a horrible, horrible person. And one thing I wanted to say that I mentioned when we were watching this, Filch, he has no loyalty to anybody
except for his cat.
Except for Mrs. Norris, but he has no loyalty to Dumbledore. It's like whoever has the most power in the school, that's who he's like, okay.
Which I'm surprised because of that he's not for Voldemort. Just because that whole power kind of thing. I guess.
I mean, maybe he's a squib, so there's not much he can do.
True.
So, he's just kind of like, oh, cool, a bad person's taking over. Oh, I got to deal with Voldemort, or I got to deal with Dumbledore now again. Mm-hmm. So, I think he's just like, maybe he's just dedicated to school. He's just a grumpy guy. Yeah. Students out of bed! Mm-hmm. Students out of bed!
Yeah, he doesn't like kids. Hates them. I think there's some kind of twinge of jealousy in there too.
Yeah,
since he is a squib.
Yeah, so there's probably that. He probably has family members that are good witches and wizards or whatever. But so he's helping her, and then Dumbledore comes out, and so everybody's like, "Oh, sweet, okay, he'll take care of
this." 16 years I've lived and taught here. Hogwarts is my home. You can't do this. Actually, I can. Something you'd like to say, dear?
Oh, there are several things I would like to say. There, shush.
Professor McGonagall, might I ask you to escort Sybil back inside?
Sybil, dear.
Oh,
sweetie.
Thank you. Thank you. Dumbledore, may I remind you that under the terms of Educational Decree number 23, as enacted by the Minister...
You have the right to dismiss my teachers. You do not, however, have the authority to banish them from the grounds. That power remains with the headmaster.
For now.
But you all have studying to do.
Now, is that it on that part?
Yeah, basically.
For you?
And then there's
You didn't
Umbridge.
you didn't read anything more into that?
No.
No?
Uh-uh.
Do you remember how prophecies work in the Harry Potter books?
Yeah, like only the person who made the prophecy and the person who it's about can read
Can
the
retrieve
prophecies.
it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can retrieve
it, sorry.
And that's what Voldemort wanted. He couldn't go into the ministry himself, so he sent his people. But it just needed to be retrieved, and nobody could have pulled it down and retrieved it except for Harry
And Trelawney.
and the person who made the prophecy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we find out in the books that the prophecy was made about Harry and Voldemort, and that Harry would be the one to kill him. This is why he's the chosen one. And it was made by Trelawney, who never has, and this is probably her first and maybe only prophecy she's actually ever done. Because remember, when Trelawney's like, "Can you make a prediction for me now?" And she's like,
"Grave danger."
Yeah. So that's not what it looks like. But remember, in book 3, we had she grabbed him by the arm, and she went into this trance and talked about how the Grim was after him. Remember, and she had that weird voice. We'll be reunited with the Dark Lord once more.
Yeah.
Well, that is a real trance. That's a real prediction. She doesn't even know she's doing it.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, dear. Did you say something?"
Exactly. So I don't know if it's this one or the next one, or even the final one, but I'm cool with talking about it right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this prophecy for a little bit. So this prophecy was made. Do you know what the exact words of the prophecy was?
No.
So this was Sybil Trelawney's very first prophecy. And this is the entire line of the prophecy. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who, and remember, some of this was cut up for the movie, and they didn't have the entire one because it talks about the month when month and all that kind of stuff. It didn't get into that in the movie, but it's the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. And remember, this was before Harry was born. Mm-hmm. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal. But he will have power the Dark Lord knows not, and either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord will be born as the 7th month dies.
And he was born in the end of July.
But who else was born at the
Neville.
end of July? Neville was born at the end of July. Now, I like the fact that they made sure to leave a scene in there where Dumbledore makes sure she doesn't leave the grounds, because then the Death Eaters would have snatched her up and made her get the prophecy, right?
Yep.
If they had, I'm sure that they know who does the prophecies or whatever. So it talks about the one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord is going to be born as the 7th month dies. So at the end of the 7th month, which is July, Harry was born at the end of July, and who else was born at the end of July?
Neville Longbottom.
Neville Longbottom. Now, if that's all the information you got, you can basically narrow it down to 2 people. Okay? The only wizarding families that were close, and that we're assuming this prophecy has to do with something that's close by or whatever. You have 2 kids. You have Neville Longbottom, and you have Harry Potter. Now, as Voldemort, which one would you go for, and why?
If I was Voldemort, well, I mean, since Bellatrix used the Crucio curse on his parents, he doesn't seem to have much defense, if that makes sense.
On Neville's parents?
Yeah. Cause
Now, that didn't happen until after the prophecy, after Voldemort found out.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
It happened right before Voldemort died, basically.
Right.
Or died, is when the Longbottoms. So, do you know what the Longbottoms are as far as their blood status?
No.
Yeah, I wasn't. Not a trick question or anything. No. So the Longbottoms are purebloods, and both of them are purebloods. Okay. Harry was being born to a pureblood in James, and a mudblood, not even a half-blood, because Lily didn't have parents that were witches and wizards. She was like Hermione. She was born, and Petunia didn't have the gene or whatever. She was just more. She just happened to be, have the wizarding powers or whatever. So, do you pick someone like that, or do you pick the purebloods because of Voldemort and all his pureblood mania?
Yeah, probably not. Probably not Neville and his family.
It mirrors like Hitler stuff, right? Like Hitler was all about the Aryan nation, blonde hair, blue eyes, and all that.
Yeah.
Hitler didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes.
Right.
So you look at Voldemort, he did not go for the purebloods. Mm-hmm. As much as he tells his followers, no mudbloods, no half-bloods, purebloods only. He didn't go for the purebloods. He went for the child of the half-bloods, the mudbloods. He went for the half-blood child, basically. Yeah. What we find out later is that Voldemort himself is a half-blood.
Yeah.
His mom was a wizard or a witch, but his dad was just a regular old human, And that's what we're going to get into that next book, next movie / book or whatever. But it's interesting that Voldemort chooses the Potters because when he goes after him and he kills the mom and everything, and he marks Harry, which is what this said he would do, Dumbledore makes the point that he could have done the same thing with Neville, and then Neville would have had Harry's life, but it didn't work out that way because Voldemort saw strength in half-bloods because he himself was one.
Yeah, which is kind of ironic because it's not totally off topic, but the two actors that played Harry Potter and Neville, I'm pretty sure they both went for the Harry Potter role.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah, I think they did. And Neville could have been probably a good Harry Potter, depending on, the looks and all that kind of stuff. But I just think that duality is cool. Also, one of his closest servants, who was also one of the most powerful Death Eaters, was Snape, who was also a half-blood. Mm-hmm. That's what you find out next movie.
Right.
So all of these people are like that. And what a lot of people don't know also about this whole prophecy thing is who was with Trelawney that she gave the prophecy to. Do you know who was with her? Mm-mm. When she suddenly went into her trance and she spoke the prophecy, which is stored at the ministry, who was she with that heard that prophecy? Mouth it. Yeah, Dumbledore. Oh. Dumbledore happened to be with her that night and heard the prophecy firsthand. And that's how he knew immediately what was going on. Mm-hmm. Do you know who was hiding outside the door that heard the prophecy that shouldn't have?
Snape.
Severus Snape. And what did he do with that information? He went straight to Voldemort and told him. Because at this time, Snape was serving Voldemort truly. Mm-hmm. He told him about the prophecy. And then right after that, Harry and Neville were born. And over the next few months, Voldemort was doing research about who this was that did it. And then finally narrowed it down to these two people. And then figured out it was either Harry or Neville. And he decided it was going to be Harry because they're half-blood. So he let all his Death Eaters know, we needed to find out where the Potters are. Mm-hmm. And Snape goes, oh, shit. Mm-hmm. And that is the time when he immediately goes, and we see later on, he goes to Dumbledore and says, please don't kill me, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. Please hide them. I didn't know that it was about them. I didn't know it was about, Lily or whatever. And, Dumbledore's like, it's not about Lily. It's about a boy. Like, Snape wasn't even thinking about the boy. All he cared about was Lily and everything. So all of that was wrapped around all of this stuff. The fact that that's probably one of Snape's biggest regret is hearing that and running straight to Voldemort and telling him what he could remember. And that's why Voldemort had to come back and learn and hear this prophecy again. Because what he heard from Snape is what Snape could remember. So he had to hear the prophecy again. He wanted to know exactly what it says so he knew how to kill Harry Potter because he knew that it said that one has to kill the other. So now I got to figure out how to do it. So this is why I tell everybody, if you like the Harry Potter movies, go watch the movies. Right. If you don't like the Harry Potter movies, not go watch the movies. If you like the Harry Potter movies, go read the books. If you don't like the Harry Potter movies, go read the books because they're way better. That gives much more information and everything. So after that, they decide they need to start a thing called Dumbledore's Army. We're going to start to blow through some of this because we're getting crazy on time here. But yeah, I think the real reason he couldn't have Trelawney booted is because she could reveal the prophecy as well as Harry. So, let me see. I got way behind on this. Okay. So they meet at a bar real quick. They explain to the kids, "Hey, we need to learn this stuff. Umbridge is not teaching us anything. We need to learn this stuff. Harry's been through it all." And that's when he made the very good point that, look, I was lucky 99% of the time. I pretty much always had help. I have not done all this by myself. When he was in Sorcerer's Stone, he wouldn't have made it past the three-headed dog,
right,
or anything. He wouldn't have made it past the to the Chamber of Secrets if it wasn't for Ron. Ron helped out a lot, and with Professor Quirrell, he in Part 3, they definitely wouldn't have been able to save Sirius and Buckbeak if it wasn't for Hermione and her time turner, and maybe some stuff that Ron did. There was a lot of luck there, but there was a lot of Harry doing a lot of stuff too. Yeah. So they start learning from Harry. He starts teaching them different things, and it isn't until I think right before they went on Christmas break, that people broke out of Azkaban. Death Eaters helped, like Bellatrix and a bunch of people break out of Azkaban. We're trying to figure out if who's the werewolf?
Fenrir Greyback.
We're trying to figure out if Fenrir Greyback was part of the escapees. So if any of you listeners know if he was part of the escapees, let us know. We want to know because I can't remember if he was captured in Azkaban with them or not. But that happens. Neville sees the clipping, and that's when he tells Harry about, what happened to his mom and dad and what she did and all that. But before that happens, Harry has a dream about a snake crawling through the Ministry.
Yep.
And where is it going?
It's heading towards Arthur.
It's heading towards Arthur. And Arthur is standing in a place with a bunch of glass globes. We don't know what that is yet. We find out later it's all the prophecies and little crystal balls like you have and everything. But he is patrolling in there, and we don't know why, but the snake attacks him. And I have to imagine that maybe the snake was in there to get the prophecy, Lucius was at the beginning of the movie, maybe he was trying to go in there, and Fudgecap caught him, and he just kind of played it off as, I'm just wandering around, let's talk, and all that. So maybe Lucius was trying to sneak in. Now they have the snake trying to go in. Dumbledore realizes they're going after the prophecy.
Right, and not only was Harry in this dream and seeing the snake go towards Arthur, it was almost as if he was the snake.
He was the snake, and that's what he ended up telling Dumbledore, right? So he wakes up in a cold sweat and goes and tells him and Ron both go and tell McGonagall, and she takes him to Dumbledore. Dumbledore asks him very particular things, in your dream, blah, 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 blah. And he finally figures out this seems real. And so he has the portrait go check. Now, in the Harry Potter world, I don't know if we've talked about this, but you have dead people that are in these portraits. They just kind of magically appear sometimes. I think sometimes they're made, but sometimes they magically appear. Now, if you have two different portraits, which this guy named Phineas Black does, he's in the Black family, and he has a portrait in Grimmauld Place where the Order of the Phoenix is, and he has a portrait up in the headmaster's office in Dumbledore's office at Hogwarts, because all headmasters of Hogwarts get their own portrait. And if you have multiple different portraits, you can actually walk out of your frame and leave and go into another portrait. Because remember in the first movie when they got the chocolate frogs, and they're like, well, they can't stick around forever, right? So, and these are supposed to just be like memories, not the real person or whatever, but they're very helpful. And so they go and...
just like the fat lady when she went from one portrait to another after being attacked by Sirius.
She went to hide behind some
cows or
something like that.
Sheep.
But So he sends somebody to Grimmauld Place or in Grimmauld Place to go check on Arthur at the Ministry. They find him. He's very badly wounded. The snake's gone. And so he has to be taken to St. Mungo. And that's where we find out about Neville's parents, because we get the whole St. Mungo scene in the book that we don't get here in the movie. But before that scene where he's talking to Harry and he walks by and he keeps walking by, but he's not looking at him. Do you remember how occlumency works?
No.
So after this, and we'll talk about it in a sec, but after this, Dumbledore assigns Harry to go do occlumency with Snape.
I don't know what that is.
And occlumency is trying to read somebody's mind. No, I'm sorry. Occlumency is blocking somebody from reading someone else's minds. Legilimens is reading somebody else's mind. So Voldemort is one of the greatest legilimens. He can read people's mind very, very well. One of the greatest around, if not the greatest. But who's the greatest occlumency?
I don't know.
Snape.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And that's what allows Snape to be such a good double agent. Or is she? Because he can block anybody from reading his true thoughts and everything. So he's really good at it. Now, Harry was able to break through a little bit here just because Snape wasn't prepared. But because of that, you need eye contact for legilimens, right? And Snape is, remember, in Harry's head. And there's a very good chance that Snape could be monitoring this conversation. Voldemort. I got a weird look from somebody that made me realize I said the wrong name. Voldemort is in Harry's head, isn't he? So he could be actively watching at this moment what's going on.
And Dumbledore probably knows.
And that's why Dumbledore is not even looking at Harry. Like, he doesn't even care. As soon as he comes back and said they found him, Albus, he'll be all right. Dumbledore kind of turns this way, and for like a split second shows eye contact with him as he turns, and that eye contact is all Voldemort needed to try to take over, right? And then at that point, Voldemort tried to really take, and that's when he did the neck thing, and he's like, "Look at me!"
In the dream, were you standing next to the victim? Or looking down at the scene?
Neither. It was like Professor, will you please just tell me what's happening?
Everard, Arthur's on guard duty tonight. Make sure he's found by the right people.
Sir.
Phineas, you must go to your portrait at Grimmauld Place. Tell them that Arthur Weasley is gravely injured, and his children will be arriving there soon by Port Key.
They've got him, Albus. It was close, but they think he'll make it. What's more, the Dark Lord failed to acquire it.
Oh, thank goodness. Next we need...
Look at me!
And so, I mean, that's when Voldemort came out. And then you get Dumbledore looking at him, and that's when... Then you see his face, and he looks so evil, and then he goes, "What's happening to you?" The evil drains from his face, and that's when Dumbledore finally goes, "Oh, Snape, we can't wait any longer." You know, so love that scene.
I do too.
Could be my favorite scene of the movie.
Yeah.
And just that one where, I mean, he just does such a good job with the neck thing.
He does.
There's a part in the Deathly Hallows where they're dealing with, I won't say what they are right now, but with parts of Voldemort's soul, parts of Voldemort, where as soon as he touches something, you know, they're like, "Oh no, it's in Half-Blood Prince that it happens." He reaches out and touches something, and it spins, and he suddenly goes, because
he rolls his neck.
And it's just like this thing that he can't help. Like he does, it's just like a snake kind of just moving his head around and everything. And it's like this really creepy, like he's possessed type of thing.
And you've seen Voldemort do it too before.
Yeah. But the way that Daniel Radcliffe does it, it looks like he's possessed. It looks like real wicked.
Yeah.
And he just does such a good job of it. And the way that he briefly had the thing, he did the neck crick and then, "Look at me." And in the next movie, he does it too, and he cricks it. And then like Dumbledore's kind of looking at him like, that kind of like more confirmation that Harry's got inside of him what he thought he did. But just great acting by Daniel Radcliffe. I really like that part.
Me too.
So there's still, when he gets back from the occlumency, Harry is still, when they get back from Christmas break, they're still doing occlumency with Snape. And Harry's getting sick of it, and he's like, you know, Snape's bad-mouthing his dad, which I don't think that Harry still has a good grasp of how much of a bully his dad was back in the day. Now, he made changes, but you completely get where Snape's coming from. Right. So he uses a protection charm when Snape tries to read his mind one time, and he ends up reading Snape's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where he sees Snape being bullied. You know, people making fun of him, and it was all led by James. And he has that same look that Malfoy has when he's messing with people. You know, so it's in that moment he realizes, and he's even like stuttering when he comes out, and Snape's like mortified, right? Because even you remember when he's like, nobody can know because I don't want anybody to know my past. But he's real mortified that Harry is now seeing that his dad used to bully Snape.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a new sense. This is kind of the turning point for everything. You know, everything that you thought you knew before Goblet of Fire, everything's changing now. Now we learn James Potter was a bully, and he put Snape through some hell, and Sirius was just as bad. You know, I just think it's really cool how they added that in there, and are really starting to kind of build up Snape's importance to the past. You know, because before it's been him just helping out with these little things. In the movies, it didn't show his connection to the Marauders as well as it did in the book. So now we're starting to see more and more Snape becoming more and more important to the story.
Right.
So
a little bit before that, sorry, I'm backtracking a tiny bit. A little bit before that, like during, you know, Christmas break and everything, you know, Arthur's back and everything, and then Sirius pulls Harry aside and has a sweet little father and son moment.
My parents with their pure blood mania.
My mother did that after I ran away. Charming woman. I was 16.
Where did you go?
Your dad's. I was always welcome at the Potters. I see him so much in you, Harry. You are so very much alike.
I'm not so sure. Sirius, when I saw Mr. Weasley attacked, I wasn't just watching. I was the snake. And afterwards in Dumbledore's office, there was a moment when I wanted to... This connection between me and Voldemort. What if the reason for it is that I am becoming more like him? I just feel so angry all the time. And what if after everything that I've been through, something's gone wrong inside me? What if I'm becoming bad?
I want you to listen to me very carefully, Harry. You're not a bad person. You're a very good person who bad things have happened to. You understand? Besides, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside of us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. That's who we really are.
Sirius, you know, jumps in and is like, you know, you are not a bad person. You are a good person who bad things have happened to. Yes. And he says, and it's what you do moving forward with those emotions and everything that make you out to the kind of person that you are. Just because you have these emotions does not mean you are a bad person.
And one of my favorite quotes in all of Harry Potter, because with all these types of movies where you have good magic or good powered people, whether it's superheroes or Harry Potter or people with the Force in Star Wars, and you have the bad people, you know, the bad versions of those or whatever. With every single one of those, you kind of get that way. You're like, well, is that a good Jedi or is it a Sith? Mm-hmm. Is that a good wizard or is that a bad wizard and everything? And I really like his line. He's like, the world isn't divided into good people and Death Eaters. Mm-hmm. We all have light and dark in us, mm-hmm. but it's what you choose to act on.
Right.
That's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's worried he's turned into Voldemort. But really what's happening is just Voldemort's taking him over.
Yep.
He doesn't realize it, and Dumbledore can't tell him because Voldemort might be listening in at the moment, and he'll realize that they're closer than he thought. So they continue to train in Dumbledore's army, and after Neville tells him about his mom and all that, I think that's what makes Harry go. He sees Neville's, Neville talks about what happened to his parents. Bellatrix tortured him. They went insane, but I'm really proud of them. I'm proud of who they were. And Harry kind of was like, man, this guy needs something good. So then it's like, the next thing I'm going to teach is the spell where you have to, it takes having good positive memories and all that behind it. So the next thing they do is Patronuses. And I think that's good for Neville because he struggles the most to produce one. And in the book, I think he produces a good one. I don't think we actually see him produce a Patronus in this one. So poor Neville is still left behind. But of course, we got Ron with the little dog, the lab or whatever.
Hermione with the otter.
Hermione has an otter. I would have guessed she would have had a cat.
A cat, definitely.
But maybe that's Umbridge has a cat, which we see in Deathly Hallows Part 1. And then Luna had a rabbit, a little bunny rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember any of the other ones. What would your Patronus be? Have you been to Pottermore?
Yes, I have, and I can't quite. It was a long time ago that I took this quiz.
My email.
And I took my Patronus test, and I can't remember for the life of me what mine was.
Okay, well, but you did take it, right?
Yes.
So first of all, which house were you in?
Slytherin.
Slytherin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's scary. How did you get Slytherin?
I don't know.
Okay. I can't find mine either. I got Ravenclaw, which I'm very happy about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're kind of stuck up, but I'm in the presence of like Luna and Cedric. No, Cedric was Hufflepuff.
Mm-hmm.
Luna, okay. I got Luna and Cho.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, I like Ravenclaw. I liked what I had. Did you do the test? What'd you get? Henry got Hufflepuff. That's so. He's like the most laid back dude I've ever met, Henry, and that makes a lot of sense because Hufflepuff is pretty laid back.
My boyfriend's Slytherin too.
Oh, is he Slytherin?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Ravenclaw, which means I'm very high strung and worried about my grades and all that kind of stuff, and trying to be as smart as I can. None of us are brave.
I don't know how I got Slytherin.
That just means you're ambitious. You could say, well, it's the bad house, but it could just mean that you're ambitious because that's what Slytherin is.
And not all Slytherins are bad, so.
But all
the bad people are from Slytherin, but not all Slytherins end up being bad people.
It's like all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same thing. By the way, they formed Dumbledore's army and they started it they started training in the Room of Requirement because not a lot of people in the school know about it. Okay, so there's some booms outside. Guess who's getting in? Umbridge.
Mm-hmm. Because she's annoying.
And who do they have with them?
They got Cho.
They got Cho. Mm-hmm. So, to say this, they were in the Room of Requirement. In the movie, they had Neville find it. Remember, they're trying to give Neville a little credit, make him look more important because he does have a very important role in the last book. And
Definitely.
A very important scene and everything. And it kind of it's good for that character, but he did not find the Room of Requirement in this one. If you listen to our last episode, we talked about how Barty Crouch Jr.'s story went in the books and how different it was in the movies, and how he had a house elf named Winky that was helping him. Well, once Barty Crouch Jr. Ended up going back to prison. And I think they finally did the Dementor's kiss on him because just like what was done to his mom when she died, he had the Dementor's kiss done on him, and he was gone after that.
Yeah.
So, Winky was the house elf. She was left devastated because she really loved Barty Crouch Jr. And she would have done anything with him. So she got really depressed, so she decided to go. Dobby invited her to work with him in the kitchens, because Dobby works in the Hogwarts kitchens now. And has fun doing that. And he can go wherever he wants. He's not tied to the school or whatever. So, but he helps Winky, and he found this Room of Requirement to let her go sleep off her drunkenness, because she'd get drunk off of butterbeer because she missed her master so much. And he told Harry about it, and that's where Harry found out about that. So just to let you know, that's how that happened. Now, Cho gets a lot of crap because of this movie.
Yeah.
And it's not what happened in the book. I don't know if you remember. There was a friend that Cho had, and she didn't want to be part of Dumbledore's army. She didn't want to join this, and her parents didn't want her to join this. They were because her parents worked at the Ministry, and they were very much with Fudge, and so was the friend. And so because Cho wanted the friend to go with her, and she wanted to be close to Harry and all that, it was actually the friend that went and told Umbridge about this. But they blamed Cho because whatever. It's just their relationship fall apart, and since that Cho was friends with this girl, Harry couldn't separate it, and that's why they kind of fell apart. You know, we have Harry's very first kiss in this movie. I just didn't feel like we needed to talk about it because I've never liked Cho as far as that goes. She just had such a weird personality, and I didn't understand why Harry wanted to be in a relationship with her because
they don't have much in common.
He'd never talked to her. Like, it was maybe just a physical attraction to it because I'm trying to remember the books too. I mean, like, he didn't talk to her much in Goblet of Fire. Asked her out. She's like, I'm going with Cedric. Sorry. And then the next year in this movie, she was just sad about Cedric all year. So I don't know what they had in common, their personalities.
He was really awkward around her too.
Yeah. Also, she was a year above him. So when she graduated at the end of Half-Blood Prince, so she didn't come back to. I mean, she was already graduated, whereas Ron, Hermione, and Harry also had one more year to go. But she did, because she was loyal to Harry, she did come back for the battle, even though she wasn't in. But I think the movie portrays it as she's still in school, but she's technically she was in Cedric's, or between Cedric and Harry's age or whatever. So anyways, they take Harry to the Dumbledore's office, and they present it to Dumbledore, and Dumbledore's already sitting on his desk, just, you know, with one butt cheek on the desk and the other kind of just hanging off. He's just chilling, like he's waiting for him. He's like, okay, come on, I know what you're here for. I have a feeling he's got like ears everywhere or something. He knows
everything.
So they are like, look, this piece of paper that all these kids signed up to, they said it was, you know, they named it Dumbledore's Army. This is everybody who's in it. It's proof that it's that you did this, Dumbledore. And he goes, yep.
He says, yep,
sure,
says
right,
Dumbledore, not Harry.
Exactly. And Dumbledore's like, no, this was my idea. He didn't do it. And Dumbledore's like, oh, that's sweet of you, Harry. But as you can see, my name's on it. He turned to them. He's like, you know, I told Harry to do this because Harry cannot get kicked out of Hogwarts. If he does, he's out in the open. He's exposed. And the Dursleys aren't going to want him back at their house until summertime. So he has nowhere to go, and he's in much more danger now. Now, I'm like, okay, there are plenty of places in this world. I mean, we saw in the Deathly Hallows that you can secure a place that they can't get into. And as long as you have a secret keeper you can trust as well. You know what I mean? So I'm not flipping you off here. I'm just rubbing my So they confront Dumbledore about it, and they're like, okay, come on, let's go, buddy. You're under arrest. And he's like, no.
I'm not. He said, I don't plan on going to Azkaban.
It's not my style, you know, that thing. And so what do?
He claps his hand together. The Phoenix comes behind him, and he
knows some kind of a spell.
Some kind of disapparating
or maybe it's Phoenix
spell.
magic.
I don't know.
Maybe Phoenix magic has magic like the house elf. But as soon as he touches the Phoenix and claps his hand together, he bursts into flames. He, you know, absorbs the Phoenix flames. Both the bird and the wizard disappears. Huge explosion. Everybody's knocked back. And when they all get up, he's gone.
And Kingsley
has to say,
you may not like him.
You may not like Dumbledore.
But he's got style.
But you have to admit, Dumbledore has style. So he's gone, and Umbridge becomes the new headmistress.
And might I add that was one of Henry's favorite scenes. The clapping.
The clapping.
Yeah.
Okay, so Henry's favorite scene is that. One of my favorites is the look at me and all that. Okay, so during this whole school, they're taking their OWL tests, which are kind of like ACT, SAT type tests, where you're getting ready to go beyond for your aptitude to see what kind of jobs you'd be good for afterwards. You know, Harry obviously in the books, you know, he talks about how he wants to be an Auror, he wants to fight dark wizards. And that's what he wants to do. And so they have to take these tests, but it's not important to the movie, so we're not going to get into it too much. But they are taking tests when Fred and George decide they've had enough of Hogwarts. They probably would have stuck it out for the rest of the year if Dumbledore was there, but this is their last year, and since they had already done all their owls and all their testing, there's no reason for them to be there anymore. So what better chance, or what better time than to take the chance? What better time than now would it be to just take the chance to screw everything up? You know what I mean? Really ruin Umbridge's day. So they come in there and they explode a bunch of fireworks, and it's hilarious. But then suddenly Harry experiences a vision, and he collapses when he sees this vision because Voldemort is torturing Sirius in the Department of Mysteries, in the, I guess this would be the prophecy room of the Department of Mysteries, but he's torturing him there, the same place where he saw Arthur get attacked by a snake. And he's asking him, what's he asking him?
What the prophecy is, maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember actually I don't know if he's asking him to get it or where is it.
Well, because Sirius said you would have to kill me, so I'm guessing he was asking what the prophecy is.
Tell me what it is or whatever. And he's like, you're going to have to kill me. So he's using the Crucio curse on him, and Harry's freaking out. So he runs with Harry and with Ron and Hermione, and he's like, we got to save Sirius. And they're like, this could be a trap. And he's like, I don't care, it's Sirius. And they're like, okay, cool, let's do it. So they go to her office where they can use her chimney to communicate.
The Flu Network.
But they didn't go in there in the book to travel anywhere. Do you know what the reason they were going in there for? Because I don't think they even realized it. They were going there to send out a message to the Order, right? Well, in the book, it shows how Creature actually kind of, in the big scheme of things, caused Sirius's death. Because when he had that vision, he went into the fireplace, and the only one who was around was Creature, because he was talking to the fireplace in Sirius's house. And he goes, where's Sirius? And Creature's like, he's not here. And basically he's like, oh, so he's not here? He's like, I don't know what happened to him, but he's not here. And Sirius was there, but Creature just is being a jerk because he doesn't like anybody there. So Harry takes that as confirmation that Sirius is at the Department of Mysteries. But if Creature hadn't screwed that up, then maybe none of this would have happened.
Right.
So they all decide to go to the Ministry to help Sirius out together. So we got Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Luna, and Neville all getting on Thestrals and riding to the Ministry. We got... As soon as they get to the Ministry, I love that they cut everything that was in the Department of Mysteries out of this movie. When I was reading this book, it was like a very exciting book to read, and I was going on and on and on. You get to the Department of Mysteries, and you're kind of like, there's some cool stuff in there, and the things that she made up is pretty cool, but it really does go on too long. I mean, they got all these rooms, and they spin.
I think I kind of remember it.
Brains fly all over the place, and you never know where you're going. It was just too much, and it broke them up too much. This one, blessedly, has them get into the elevator, and the next scene it cuts to them going into where all the prophecies are. Like, thank God. We just saved like 20 or 30 minutes of a movie.
Yeah.
So they go in there, they find the prophecy, and Lucius is there too. Because of course he is. What do you think of Helena Bonham Carter as Bellatrix Lestrange? This is our first real introduction of her.
I thought it was a really cool scene to see her kind of emerge from the darkness, because you see her in Azkaban getting broken out, and she kind of looks like crap. But she comes out of the darkness. She's got her hair like she looks revamped, and she looks freaking awesome. I hate her, but she looks awesome.
Yeah.
You do anything to us, I'll break it.
Knows how to play. Itty bitty baby Potter.
Bellatrix Lestrange.
Neville Longbottom, is it? How's Mum and Dad?
Better now they're about to be avenged.
I don't think anyone could have played a better Bellatrix Lestrange than she could, but she looks great for her character and everything, and great actress. But you just know she's up to no good. So.
Yeah. So they engage in a huge battle that basically destroys the entire prophecy room. They go through a door and get to this archway, which we saw in the books. We saw the archway before they got into the prophecy room.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know what it was. They heard the voices, whatever. And then they left, and then they went to the prophecy room. Well, when they came back, they went back into that archway room.
Mm-hmm. But only Harry and Luna could hear these voices.
Just like Thestrals,
Yep.
which is why we think that it's probably, the realm
Archway of death
the dead
or
behind
something.
there, and they can hear that because they've been through that tragedy. So
If you walk through it, do you think you die?
yeah, because there's some wondering if that Avada Kedavra hit him straight on or not or whatever. But yeah, I think that I said in the book that Harry had a very strong sense that you wouldn't come back if you went beyond it.
Yeah.
So it gave him the sense that there would be some finality to passing through it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why it's kept there away from everybody, so nobody can fall through it or walk through it or whatever, because maybe they can't destroy it.
Right.
So the Death Eaters, Lucius and them cornering them, and each Death Eater has one of the kids captive, and so Harry hands over the prophecy. As he does, you see a great white flash of light, and he turns around, and you see Sirius, and he says, "Get away from my godson." Boom! And punches him, and then suddenly all the other Order of the Phoenix shows up. They start fighting the Death Eaters. There's spells going everywhere. All the rest of the kids jump down because they don't have their wands anymore, and they're being kept safe by all the other Aurors fighting, and everybody's doing a great job.
Mad-Eye Moody's using his staff, hitting it against the floor. It shoots him away. It's awesome.
Slams his staff down. And it's a lot more descriptive in the book about what everybody's doing and who's fighting who and all that kind of stuff. But just like in the book, we have Harry and Sirius taking on Lucius, and they beat him pretty quickly because Lucius isn't that intimidating. And he hits him, and this goes on to what I was saying, is that, you hear Sirius say, "Nice one, James."
Mm-hmm.
And because Harry deflected a spell from Lucius and maybe even sent it back, and he's like, "Oh, nice one, James."
And you see Harry kind of look at him
And
like...
he looks over. And so you see that for Sirius, he's lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
He's still kind of like dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was so devastating for him to lose James. And, for him to say, "Nice one, James," it just shows how much he misses Harry's father and how much Harry reminds him of James. And not too long after that, you hear Avada Kedavra from a familiar voice, Bellatrix, and she sends a shot of green light. Now, in the book, but right before this happened, right before she sent that spell, they're all in that room, and guess who shows up in that room? Dumbledore.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly, freaking Death Eaters are running scared. They all scatter, right? They're like, "Oh crap, Dumbledore's here."
Yeah.
So they go all running like crazy, and it's only real quickly right after that that Bellatrix sends that thing right to Sirius, and it happens like in the movie. He hits him, and he hits his chest, and he almost has this kind of weird smile on his face, and then he falls back into the archway and disappears. And she does the same thing. "I killed Sirius back." And so he's real down.
You have to put that into the episode, her saying that.
This was such a good performance from Daniel Radcliffe showing his pain.
Oh my gosh. It
said
breaks my heart.
Yeah, they said on set that it was hard for people to watch him because he wailed so hard and he just like really, really felt it. And they said David Thewlis, who plays Remus, couldn't even hold him back because he was so just like in the moment and everything. And just thought it was a great moment because that felt him like losing a brother.
Yeah, and that was his last, I guess, form of family in a way.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever saw Sirius as like a mother or father figure, but he saw him as like maybe an older brother that was supposed to take care of him or something. I think that's kind of more how he saw it, and just to have that happen and just loses it, and then he chases her down, and for the very first time in his life,
he uses an unforgivable curse
and shoots the Crucio, but it kind of just phased her because she was right back up in the book.
Yeah.
And
how did that unphase her?
Because it's just what Voldemort says. You have to mean it.
That's true.
You have to. He's not cruel, and to do the Crucio curse, you have to pour your cruelty in it, basically.
Yeah.
And so he was doing it out of remorse, out of devastation and everything. So he sent that, and the scene in the book in this lobby area or whatever with the fountain. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Like
it is.
Like Dumbledore's pulling out like a shield, the shield that bounces, that the Avada Kedavra curses bounce off of. They bring the statues to life.
Yeah,
and they go like this, and they hold Harry back, and they're protecting Harry and everything.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite scenes.
The book is so cool. The way everything is, and if they had copied it, I don't know, maybe it would have been all right. In the book, it shows, he still has like a pointy hat and everything. Yeah. Which he doesn't. And this is that warrior Dumbledore we're looking at. But I thought they did a really good job.
Oh my gosh, they did amazing.
Well.
It was an amazing fight scene. I loved it.
We don't know half the things they were throwing at each other. We had never seen them before. So, when the kids are fighting, you always see stupefy.
They're not even talking.
All these types of things. They're not even talking, and you're not seeing stupefies. You're not seeing levi corpus. You're not seeing whatever Ginny uses. You're seeing this advanced crazy stuff, and most of it coming from Voldemort, because a lot of people are like, oh, Voldemort could have done this or that. All that stuff that Voldemort was doing, I meant Dumbledore could have done this or that to Voldemort, but all that stuff that Voldemort was doing was beyond Dumbledore.
Yeah,
like Dumbledore is very powerful and knows a lot of magic, but he knows some dark magic because he had to study for whatever, but he generally didn't study dark magic. So all the stuff that Voldemort was throwing out, he was kind of having a tough time with. In the book, it was completely clear that Dumbledore was 200% in control of that fight. Everything that Voldemort was sending and everything that he was doing, you got the sense that Dumbledore could have stopped that fight at any moment, or at least he could be doing a lot more. But he didn't want to go after Voldemort. He didn't want to give it his all. He didn't want to mess up. All he was doing was stalling, because he knew that actually all the Aurors and that Fudge was on his way back to the Ministry.
Right.
So all he was doing was stalling. He was trying to make sure that Voldemort didn't get away, didn't disapparate. Didn't get away and everything, so he was trying to keep him there. But he was like way more in command of the fight, whereas in the movie it felt like he was just having a tough time keeping up with it all.
Right.
Like he did, and he was very powerful, but he was having a bit of a problem keeping up with
him
Voldemort.
in the water ball that he could have kept him in if
and you think of how
Harry interfered with.
Harry ruined that one. But I mean, you think of how powerful Dumbledore is and how powerful Voldemort is, and you think of this person named Amelia Bones putting up a really good fight against, not many people that can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just really, really love this fight scene. I think it's great. I think it's emotional. I think that the possession does happen in the book as well. And it is him thinking about his friends and the good memories that he has that is able to get him out of there. And the reason that we never see past this point Voldemort reading Harry's mind is because in that moment when Harry was thinking about all his friends and all the happiness that he knows, in that moment Voldemort almost experienced more pain than he ever has, because he cannot experience love, and that much love pains him. And we'll get into next book, The Half-Blood Prince. If you and I have time, I'd love to talk about that one too, because I really would like to talk about the movie, but I want to dig into what the book says about Voldemort's background, all the stuff that they left out. They left out way too much of Half-Blood Prince, as much as I love that movie. But anyways, so he possessed Harry. Harry thought about all his friends.
I was crying. It was so emotional.
And it was just too much pain for Voldemort. So he'll never get into Harry's mind again because he doesn't want to experience that. And him feeling that pain showed Harry, you're the weak one, You'll never know love or friendship, and I feel sorry for you. And it's pretty much basically what Dumbledore tells him at the end, because he experienced the pureness of Harry. Yeah. Couldn't stand it. So that shows, again, Dumbledore, another reason why Harry is such an amazing person is because he was able to see he had that much goodness in him to repel Voldemort. And Ron and Hermione walk in. That's what is able to remind him of all the good times. And he thinks back to like Chamber of Secrets and
I know all the
Sorcerer's
past movies.
Stone and all those Goblet of Fire and different things. And even in this movie, and it's just so cool.
The music
it makes
is
you
just
choke up.
so like, oh my god, yeah. It is just so emotional. I was crying because like I'm still recovering from, my favorite character getting murdered, and he has to sit there while Dumbledore and Voldemort are fighting. And he's trying to collect his thoughts and like, oh my god, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And then he gets possessed by Voldemort, and then he's talking to him, and it is just such an emotional scene. And I love it. I hate it, but I love it.
Yep. And then at the end, Dumbledore tells him about tells him about everything, catches him up on it. This is why I had to do this. And he tells him, he's like, if he knew how close we were, he would use you to spy on us, to figure out what's going on. And if he's using you like that, you would have been destroyed. Yeah. Now, he didn't know about the whole, Harry being so pure would end up propelling him. Mm-hmm. But, he was just worried about his... I don't know if there's a way he could have gotten that across to Harry without, Voldemort potentially finding out.
Yeah. And once finally he's done talking to Harry, the little force field shield thing around Harry and Voldemort, finally Cornelius Fudge and the Ministry walks in, as well as the other
fool, Harry Potter.
Yeah, the Order of the Phoenix comes in as well as Cornelius, and he sees the shield and everything, and he sees Voldemort's face
for a split second,
and he goes, oh, he's back.
And then you go, and then the whole theater goes, no, duh.
Yeah, it's just like, no, I can't say that, but oh my god. Yeah.
Man, but so anyways, the boy who lived and Dumbledore acquitted in the public eye. Turns out they were right. Turns out that Umbridge was doing some pretty reprehensible things that was found out, and she has an investigation. Maybe they'll send her to Azkaban for all the torture and child abuse she did, but I doubt it because she's got a job in a couple movies. So
yeah.
And how does the movie end? Oh yeah, they're walking to the train with everybody. I thought this was a weird ending, but I can't remember exactly how the book ends. It's really irritating, but it ends with them walking to the train, and he has this weird speech, and he says something at the end. It sounded like what was it? He said, "You know what we need," or whatever. But then they're like, "What, Harry?" And then his answer just didn't sound like what he was setting it up for. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was just a terrible part. And then that's the movie. That's how the movie ends, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
just right outside of Hogwarts.
During the scene where the Death Eaters were fighting the Order of the Phoenix and everything in that one room with the archway and everything, I stopped writing notes after that because I got too invested. So the last note that I have is Death Eaters emerge. So after that, there's nothing because I just got too invested in it. But such a good movie.
Basically, for me, it's as soon as the fireworks are you like the fireworks are the build up for me because you're waiting for the Weasley twins to come. Yep. And then it happens and stuff, but as soon as he collapses, from that moment on, it's just like, I love this
chaos,
movie.
Yeah.
And I really do love this movie for that part. It was one of my favorite books reading it, and the movie there was so much cut out. I hated it for a while.
Yeah.
I like the ending and all that kind of stuff, but I really didn't like it for a while because they cut out so much, and I was so angry, but I'm like, how else do you do it? She wrote a long book. I'm super glad they're doing the series so we can get a more in-depth story and everything, but I don't know. I don't know what you say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I love the movie in total. It's hard for me to, bring forward my own thoughts about the book because I read these books like a long time ago, and there was like a couple summers ago that I had started reading them again, and I got up to Goblet of Fire, and then I stopped reading them just because I got busy.
When you say you got up to Goblet of Fire, you mean you read the first 3 and then you almost started Goblet of Fire, or you got all the way through?
I got all the way through Goblet of Fire.
Really? Not a lot of people will do that.
Yeah. No.
Because that's generally considered like a book that, like, it's one of the best books, but it's such a long book.
It is so long, but I pushed through it. It's not really pushing through it because I love this series more than any series ever.
I got Henry reading them, but it's been a while since I read them.
Yeah, it's been years since I've read Order of the Phoenix and on, so it's kind of, blurry in my memory. But I remember bits and pieces, and when you remind me of certain things, I'm like, oh yeah. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but other than that, movie 10 out of 10. I love it so much, and
this is taking your top spot now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, real quick, what's your favorite scene
in this movie? The battle scene.
That tied with the look at me for scene is for me. Yeah. What's your favorite scene?
It's tied between the fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort, or the fireworks scene.
Yeah.
Which fire? Oh, you like that one, right?
The fireworks scene was cool.
Well, Henry really likes, funny scenes.
He likes, Fred and George are where
and he
it's
likes
at.
when people are giving other people crap. He just, because that's his shtick. So, it's about the same. We got some fun things coming up as far as Half-Blood Prince, and then we got 2 movies, or, 1 book split into 2 movies. All coming up. Have you heard much about the series that's coming out?
I've heard very, very little bit, and I've heard, it's very one side of the coin, and the other, one side is like, I'm totally for it, and I'm so excited, and the other is like, no, this is stupid, let it rest, kind of thing.
I think that's because it's been done so recently. Maybe if there was like another 10 years or something gone by, then. But we're kind of getting towards the end of the golden age of television, right? Like it's for like the last 10 years, it's been the golden age of television. Just great programming.
What year did
put out.
Part 2 come out?
Deathly Hallows Part 2 was probably 2011, maybe 10, something like that. Can't remember. I know the first movie I think came out in 2001 or something.
It's almost 10 years.
So from what I understand, it's going to be each season is a book.
Okay.
So maybe 7 or 8 seasons to it. All right. Well, this is already a crazy long episode, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. But if you guys want to get a hold of us, we're on all social media at The Post Credit Podcast, except for Twitter. We're at The Post Credit. Our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website. It's www.thepostcreditpodcast.com, and we're on YouTube. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye. Are you recording?
Yes.
That was freaking loud. Ow! Ow, my earring. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Ew. ASMR.
Nasty little habits.
Nasty little habits. I'm leaving all of this in. I'm just gonna have the music fade out at the end and have all this playing.
I forgot my notes.
All right.
Forgot my notes.